It's the morning star drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Tuesday segment of the MSD on 117.8. It's January 28th, right? The final Tuesday of the month, of this first month of January and of 2025. How's everyone doing? Right? Like, has this first month been eventful? Right. I don't know, like, for each of you guys, right, like, you know, with the first 15 days and everything else that we've been doing, like, here, I think, like, I can't tell if this is, like, because I'm on the East Coast and in the South for the first time during this period, or if it's, like, maybe just, like, where Providence is. But this year, 2015, this year, like the 15 days of giving glory, I felt was quite organized. And that, like, even like our watching process right here in like American Providence, like, it was quite organized, like, compared to not like last year, because I wasn't able to, I didn't like view it from the States last year, like, but I was in person. But compared to the year prior to that, like compared to 2023, these first 15 days felt very organized, and I was very glad for it too. Yeah, so I have no idea like how it's normally like for you guys, but I hope that you had a great start to this month. Even right now, it's like getting really busy here, and you can really kind of tell that the year's begun, and so it's been kind of quite interesting. Like, I really wanted to do a lot of work within this year, and that goes both physically and spiritually too. And it's interesting, right? Like, I think I can really see the word, like, telling us to be perfect and telling us to have kind of a level heart being so important as well. Because I think, like, even over this weekend, I wanted to do a whole lot of work. But like it's interesting because, like, after a semester here in law school, like, more and more of the students here, they're getting closer and they're getting friendlier, so they want to like hang out like a lot more. And I'm kind of in a phase where I'm like, oh man, if I don't need to do that, I don't want to do that, right, kind of thing. And so I'm trying to figure out the balance between saying yes to certain things and taking time to take care of the things that I need to as well. And so yeah, I hope that everyone else is doing well. Hope that your start to the week has been great and filled with the Word. And I'm so glad to be here together with you guys on this morning. So my first kind of question for everyone today, and I'm kind of curious to see what your responses are, is how has evangelism been, in your personal life and in your churches, in your place? Because, the Word's been talking so much about it. So I'm sure everyone has like had their chance, right, in the beginning of this year to really think about it, right, how they're going to evangelize this year. And so if you have any thoughts, if there's things that you're already doing, I would love to hear about it in the comments below, right? I know Rachel was sharing about evangelism, like setting up booths and stuff at college campuses. And so I'm curious to see like whether there's different things that you guys are doing, and it's great to share about it because then it can spark different ideas, and it can also hold us accountable. And by sharing the idea, maybe the idea will change, right? Like you'll be able to reflect on it and be like, maybe I'll do it differently from what we expect. And so yeah, like from wherever you are across the world, if evangelism is a big thing that you want to take action on, and if there's like a different method that you have been implementing or want to implement this year, please definitely let us know in the comments below. I think for me, I really want to evangelize, especially guys here. And like I think we may have mentioned before, but there's some girls here whom we're teaching together with Rachel and Rachel's mom. But like for the guys, we want to tackle them and raise them into becoming like really people who are capable of running in this history. And so like I'm trying to find the appropriate way to go about doing that for the guys here. and I hope that many lives come from Florida as well. And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing like whether there's things like in different countries and different parts of the U.S. And in different English-speaking countries, like methods that you're employing, and like seeing whether evangelism efforts are really blossoming and blooming in those places as well. And with this very short introduction, let's go into the first music break for today, and then we'll be having a short segment for Bible today, and I will hand it off to Rachel with 2G Talks.
All the words secretly shared by the Spirit, even now I will keep them in mind. I will live by her word. Fish that leave the water die, they simply can't survive. Like this, I am just the same. Loving you is my joy, it's what makes me happy. It is my hope and it's my joy. The Holy Spirit said this to me: everyone lives according to their own thoughts throughout their life. This is really true. People live in this world always according to their own thoughts, thinking in this way in my body and in my heart. I'll be one with the Spirit, and I'll live as her body of Loving you is my joy, it's what makes me happy. It is my hope and it's my joy. The Holy Spirit said this to me: everyone lives according to their own thoughts throughout their life. This is really true. People live in this world always according to their own thoughts, thinking in this way in my body and in my heart. I'll be one with the Spirit, and I'll live as her body of inspiration. My love and the Holy Spirit's love, the Lord's love shall be eternal. Our love is
Awesome. So hope you guys enjoyed that break. And so for Bible today, I have one overarching question, and I think it's a very interesting one. So I'm very curious to know what everyone thinks. So I look forward to hearing what people have to say in the comments below. And if you have like a detailed answer or like an inspiration or thinking, you're more than welcome to reach out to me separately or directly, through email, or if you have any of my connections on anything, feel free to reach out because I would love to hear what you think. So this has to do with this week's message, right? Like, in part of the message it said that the wellspring of life is in your heart, right? And in your thoughts, right? And so like it was telling us, for each of us too, as well as with like the previous topic about evangelism and with lives, right? Like if someone's heart is tilted, then like whatever you put in it, it will flow in that direction, right? And so like for us too, the message told us to fix our hearts, and the way to do that is to pray to God, right? And to entrust things to Him, and to like have that relationship with God, so that our heart is not like tilted towards just what we think, but that through prayer we fix our thoughts so that it's level. Right, and then we have the thoughts and concerns of God in our hearts, and that we entrust things and we kind of like plan things together with the Lord, right? And so the same thing kind of goes for newcomers as well. And so this is kind of interesting, and so this is also my way of updating Rachel, right? Because I haven't spoken to her and her mom about this directly. But for those of you who don't know, Rachel's mom has been teaching one of the female lives here, and Rachel has been helping manage her too. And it's been a really awesome time, and I really hope that this life continues to do well. And so this is kind of my way of updating Rachel in one part about this life too. So this life mentioned to me that one of the other students in our grade, a girl who she's not in our classes. I've met her once or twice, right? But this girl, like, she wasn't at all interested in Bible study or Christianity or God in the previous semester, but I guess recently there's this girl who asked if we're still doing Bible study, and I guess she wanted to do it too. But she hasn't really specified the reasons why, or how, what's going on. But from what the girl who's been learning could tell, it's it probably something happened over the course of winter break or towards the end of last semester, that's making this girl kind of feel like maybe she needs to seek spiritual guidance, right? And I don't really know this person too well, but from a cursory glance, they're not really someone who's very ready. Right, and of course that might just be my judgment, and maybe there's someone who can really benefit from learning the word, right? Which everyone can, but especially in line with this week's message and last week's message as well, and just this overall direction about evangelism, about really finding the big fish, right, and those who are ready, and not finding those who will take us so much effort, and it's not just about putting in the effort, but it's is this someone whom you can bring, who will stand on their own 2 feet, and will be someone who helps the Lord, who helps their church, who helps their family, who helps the world, and can make it until the end, kind of thing, right? And of course, everyone might go through a period where they can't do that, right? But then they'd actually turn out to be someone who does much more. But just from what we can tell from a very cursory glance, they're not really at that stage, right? And this person might be more seeking something currently just because they're going through a period of difficulty in their life, right? And it's hard to tell whether they'll be the 9 out of 10 people who receive some kind of healing, right, from their infirmities and for the things going on in their life, but then don't come back to give thanksgiving. Or if there'll be that one person who comes back and gives glory to God, right? For the things that God has done, right? So, that aside, the possibility of this person being the 1 out of 10 being aside, the interesting question that came up to me was, as the direction has come out about, teaching people the word and making them into people of God, right? People of providence, before teaching them the word about being counterparts, right? I'm curious to know how you guys think we can go about doing that, what that might entail, Like, what do you do for someone who is not ready, but whom you might want to teach? Or how do we get them to that point? Or how do we, like, what can we do to go about both checking what kind of person they are and kind of giving them the word that's not really the word, right? You have to give the word that's not really the word, but like, it's not to say it's not really the word, but not like the word of the complete testament time period, right? Not revealing the secrets like that really God has intended, not giving the pearls to pigs, right? And so how do we get this person out from the kind of the level that they exist at, right? This dark place, and bring them to a place where maybe their hearts can become more level. Like, I'm very curious about that. And so, like, of course, there might be different situations where you foresee this with the lives that you were teaching as well, or the lives that you were trying to connect. And, of course, like, all lives kind of go through this transition period and even like introductory period too, right? But like, I'm kind of curious to know, like, whether you think there's a process that we can take, or steps we can take, or like introductory lessons, right, and such. And I'm sure the Trinity and our beloved teacher will give us like more like instruction about these things as well. But I am curious, because I think it is a really incredible and powerful direction, and maybe like it means something completely different than what we may expect, or it might be different in each place about like how we can go about fulfilling this will, right? Because it may not mean like that we stop evangelizing in droves and stuff like that, right? which has always been kind of the objective, but maybe there's like a preliminary step, right? Like, and I know like different churches have something like this too, where they'll have kind of like an open Bible study or open events, and from that event, from that club, from whatever pre-evangelism efforts there are, you kind of find the people who will want to learn the word, and then you teach them. Right? And so, yeah, maybe that's like the direction, maybe that's the word. Or it's like you teach and you kind of give some degree of responsibility, and you kind of give questions, or you check with them, and then you see like who put that word into practice, or like who, like, I don't know, like gives that inspiration, or something of that sort, right? And so there's different processes that we can take, but like, let's say in the case of this girl, right, who in many ways, like if we just look at it, in many ways is really not ready to just suddenly receive the word of the complete testament time period, and she's not ready to become like a counterpart of God necessarily, right? And so like in some cases we might just cut them loose and let them go, right? And like hope that they grow in their life first before they come back, right? Like kind of like the baby squid example that was given in the message the other day. Or like maybe there's like introductory word that we can give. Even I guess there's even a possibility of connecting them to a former faith church too, right? Because that's something that's been said to do to those who like shouldn't necessarily come to Providence, right? Even if they come to like a former faith church, like that may be good enough on its own. But yeah, so I'm very curious to know like what you would do in this situation, and if Rachel is listening, this may very well involve her, right? I guess I'll update Rachel later, but like the girl who's learning, because she doesn't feel capable necessarily of taking care of this other life on her own necessarily, right? And maybe it's an opportunity to field test something together with Rachel, and I'm very glad that the life who's learning really trusts Rachel and Rachel's mom, as well as me too, a lot, and I hope that this life can continue to learn too. But anyways, yeah, it was a very interesting situation, maybe possibly an opportunity through this other girl. And yeah, I will admit, like from the times I've talked to her, it did not seem like she was necessarily ready for this history in any way. But who knows? I can't tell the inner workings of this person's mind. And so hopefully, like if there is a possibility that they really are someone sincere and can come to God in the way that is perfect, that they will be able to do so. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of a question I had in line with this Bible study. And I guess like to kind of nail this and to bring this home for a lot of people, I would say that for most people, more than just with strangers and with people who they meet in the world and acquaintances. The people that we have in mind who may be in this category are our friends and family, right? Like, we want to evangelize our friends and family so sincerely, and to make it very real for everyone. If your friends and family are in that category, how can you bring them closer to God? Right? And like, of course, the thing that we hope for the most is that our friends and family will realize deeply and will come to pass, right? And like the many incredible stories that we've heard in the messages and through testimonies, that might require a lot of effort and a lot of prayer and time, right, for the right opportunity as well. But there are people who do need exposure to the word, and we need to proactively try to teach and stuff too, right? So, and I know, like, for some people, you may have tried to evangelize your friends and family before, and as of yet, like, it hasn't reached that critical step, right, where they're kind of transitioning and actually learning. And for some other people, there might be people who you, out of like concern or worry or fear or doubt or whatever it is, haven't yet approached about learning the word and haven't done this, even though you want to. And so, like, for those people, I hope that we can really think critically about this. And, maybe for some of them, actually, they don't even need like a small step, and they're actually ready. But all it takes is us to be bold and courageous, and to fix like the tilt in our own hearts, right, about like how we can teach them and how we can approach them. So those kind of questions come to mind, but I wanted to bring that up because I'm sure like everyone can answer the hypothetical about this girl here, who this life that's learning is having this situation with. But I think the stakes are more real, like if we think about the people whom we care about who may be in this category. I know many people have family, or if not family, friends whom they would love to bring to Providence, but even when we think about our friends, they might not be ready. And so, like, even as I'm sharing these things, I'm having my own thoughts as well, but I'm curious to know what everyone else thinks. Like, I guess like a definite precursor is like showing our life of faith to these people, just as something has even like something is mentioning that Buddhist person a lot, right, whom he like taught the word, and like this person like read through all of something's Vietnam books afterwards, and he started worshiping only God, even though he used to be someone who used to like bow down to idols like many times a day and stuff like that, right? And so there's people like him, right, in that, to people like that, and with their friends and our family, by showing our life of faith, right, and by like living that life in front of them, that's definitely a huge precursor that we can take. Right? Like, one thing that I've talked about on this segment before, and I think people who have evangelized their friends and family can definitely talk about this too, like through this method, right? Like, and this is a very minor thing, right? But it kind of shows the example, right? And so, like, I think before coming to Florida, right, before my friends, like all of whom were like atheists or agnostic back home, right, I kept thanking God for every little thing, right, within my life, and saying thank you, God, for every single thing. And like in the middle of our conversations, like my friends started doing the same thing too. And so that might just be more of like a motor reflex, right, or like like you just kind of copy and monkey see, monkey do kind of thing. But it was still like a marked improvement, and it was kind of really cool to see my friends like thanking God even for the small things. And so that might not be exactly that big jump, but in a way, right, like thinking about it right now, it might be similar to the kind of thing that something is talking about. You start to make this culture of heaven. You start to make the world into heaven, right? Let's start to rule over the world with our godly culture through all the things that we do, like at our work, in our families, within our friend groups, in a proactive way, right? Not just in a passive way, right? And specifically, like passively, I can think of like us, like keeping our daily life of faith, right? Like for ourselves personally, privately, right? Of course, that should be the priority first, right? If that's like a step that we haven't met yet, perfecting our faith and making sure that we're secure in our hearts, that's number one, right? Before you evangelize anyone else, like make yourself perfect. But yeah, like after that, right? Instead of like necessarily living only for the faith at church, right? Only on Sundays, only on Wednesdays, only in the pre-dawn. Like, if we live our life carrying out his will and taking action, hopefully the people who are prepared will see it, and other people will be inspired as a result too. Right, like, and that's something that someone here has told me as well, right? Like, one of the lives said that, like, yeah, like, I get really inspired seeing how much you help people. And I was really thankful that they noticed that, right? Because it really is a big thing. And so I'm very curious to know, like, what you guys think. Like, what would you do with this person or with your friends and your family in this category? Has there been something that you've been thinking about? Has there been something that you wanted to try with your friends and family but haven't yet had the chance or the opportunity? Or has there been something that you are actively doing that you think has been working or that has actually worked, right, and has led to, like, someone changing, has led them to, like, learn the word, has led them to come to Providence? So these are the kind of questions that come to mind, and with that, we'll conclude Bible Today with this topic, and we'll go into our second break for today, and I'll hand it off to Rachel with 2G Talks.
I'ma make this short and sweet. Your time is done. You had your chance. You're finished.
I'm going to the end, I don't quit, I'ma make it. Can see the finish line, I can feel it, I can taste it. Everything I say, I just do, I don't fake it. Your time is up, we're going all the way until the end.
It's not too late. Are you giving up already? Check it out. Here we go. It's not too late.
You chose this path cause you thought it was right for you. You can't give up right now when you know what you gotta do. Until the end, until the end, until the end. You chose this path cause you thought it was right for you. You can't give up right now when you know what you gotta do. Until the end, until the end, until the end. This the path to love I chose from the start. This the path to love forever I want. Man, thoughts are never enough, so I put you in my mind, yup, with every single thought. Even when I stumble, find my way up to the top. Coming to reach higher levels, I can never stop. It's so easy to lose everything, but what's great about life is you can get it back. The type of life you want, you really have to make it. Give your heart, will in life, you will take it. This path of love, I'll never change. I guarantee you, I will stay the same. This a real love, no plastic. This a true love, not basic. So now we're going on to the end, hey. So now we're going on to the end, hey. You chose this path cause you thought it was right for you. You can't give up right now when you know what you gotta do. Until the end, until the end, until the end. You chose this path cause you thought it was right for you. You can't give up right now when you know what you gotta do. Until the end, until the end, until the end.
Welcome back, everyone, to 2G Talks. Rachel here. 2G Talks is the segment I hope to create a narrative and conversation around Second Gen's experience in Providence, while also discussing other topics related to Second Gen, all centered only on the Lord. For today's 2G Talks, I have thoughts on leadership and a conversation with a newcomer. Happy Tuesday, everyone. How was your past week? Or how was your weekend? Mine was, as always, and very happily busy. But again, yes, in a really good way. And thank you again to everyone who did reach out or even just prayed for my family and I, as again, last week we had the winter storm here in Houston. Thankfully, we did not lose any power. And we had 2 entire extra days off from school. which I think were officially called snow days. So I had my very first 2 snow days. Myself, my mother, my dogs love the snow. I think it was on the last Tuesday that we actually went outside and everything was covered in this beautiful white snow. And it was a couple inches thick too, maybe 3 inches, which is the most that I've seen. And there was snow even until mid-afternoon, which again is something I've never seen before. Like I said, my dogs loved it. One of my dogs, Millie, she was running around, jumping into the snow, having the best time. We ended up having a snowball fight. I even, if you follow me on Instagram, maybe you saw this. I even made a snow angel, which a lot of people in Texas also did as well. As I was going through people's social medias, you could see all of that. And even though there was snow, and because of the snow, they had actually closed all the roads and the major freeways here in Houston. Although that was the case, I saw on a couple, not personal friends or people that I knew, but just through the, algorithm, that there had actually been people who had somehow gotten onto the freeway with their trucks and had taken those kiddie pools, tied them to the back of the truck, and were sledding, in a sense, down the freeway. It was pretty incredible. A lot of people took makeshift sleds, tops of containers, lids, whatever they could find, and actually went to a lot of the parks, which is where we actually have our only hills. We don't have many hills here in Houston. Everything's really flat. But people went to the parks so that they could experience sledding for the first time with their families. So, although instructed to stay off the roads and Houstonians don't really know how to drive, a lot of people were out and about just kind of enjoying this snow days that we had last week. But yes, again, overall, I'm very grateful because I was able to experience another one of God's beautiful creations, seeing the snow. I'm still not a big fan of the cold, but that's okay. So, like I mentioned before, for this week, I wanted to discuss and talk about a subject that I never really considered personally before. And like I said, this would be about leadership. So growing up in Providence, or even as people of former faith, we're all aware of the different leadership roles that are used in the church for God's history in Christianity, right? There's minister, pre-pastor, and pastor. Of course, in Providence, I know that there are a lot of other roles like rep, church rep, ministry rep, those types of things. But I specifically want to focus on the main title roles like minister, pre-pastor, and pastor. Personally, I have seen many really incredible people take charge of these roles and absolutely take action to the best of their ability according to God's will for the sake of this history, and really create incredible outcomes that were beneficial for Providence. Now, I never imagined placing myself into one of these positions or categories, or even being in the same realm of these things. And specifically, actually, the reason that I'm bringing up this topic of leadership for this week is because I was asked to fill out a titled leadership role or application. Granted, it's nothing grandiose like, pastor or anything like that, obviously. And I don't know if I really should be sharing about this, but because of the fact that I was asked to fill out this application, it really made me start thinking about what is it like to be a leader? What should I start thinking about if I were to be approved, right? And what are some of the things that I need to be preparing for moving forward? I know that Pastor Sky has talked about leadership in general prior. And I know he's also talked about, I don't want to call it an epidemic, but he's talked about the struggle of finding and raising young leaders in Providence, and really just this kind of phenomenon seen within Christianity and the former faith as well. And I definitely am someone who falls into the category of young people, right? I hope so. For me, growing up, my dad was, the head leader, pastor. And my mother was minister turned pre-pastor as well. And personally, growing up, I don't think I ever had a really explicit, conscious thought of, I really want to be a leader, or I never want to be a leader. I didn't really have either one of those thoughts. Personally, I think I was simply too busy just worrying about my own feelings, my own emotions. So that frame of reference of leadership never even crossed my mind. But again, looking at my situation now, I do have a couple of thoughts that I want to share in regards to leadership. Now, I do feel like I need to put a disclaimer here. And so I'm going to go ahead. Here's my disclaimer. These ramblings are simply based on the reflections and personal stories of Rachel Donkels, i.e. should not be taken out of context or seen as a general view of how people view leadership in America. Thank you. I don't know if that was necessary, but I felt like it was a good thing just to have just in case. Again, this is simply my humble opinion, specifically of how leadership is viewed from an American point of view, and how that can be really different from other Providence countries, specifically other Asian Providence countries, and could possibly lead to a couple of reasons or explanations as to why ministry or the growth of Providence within each country is different. So, leadership. What's our view? Why do we see it? Why is it the way that it is? Number one, Americans generally don't really respect authority. Perhaps this stems from a deeper-seated need to be independent, a need to stand out. And if you're listening or if you're bowing to the whims of authority, you can't really be those things, right? You can't be independent. So, in my experience, I have seen in America that we don't always listen to what someone has to say simply because they're a minister, pre-pastor, or pastor right away. Not because we don't like the person themselves, but because we have this stigma against authority. And so because of this stigma against authority, there tends to be a lack of respect in authority. So naturally, if you don't really respect someone, then, number two, Americans also don't really trust authority. I've seen on multiple occasions, and perhaps you've seen this as well, if a leader makes a decision, there's always someone who will come in and almost kind of check and see, is this really the best option? And I've seen this done in a certain number of different ways, but the main thought is always, well, could this have been done better? Could this have been done differently? Which, honestly, probably is a good thing that would benefit leaders, always hearing other sides, other points of views, almost like a check and balances system. But when it's a constant struggle or a constant thing that continues to happen, and if the reasoning for the checks and balances is flawed, as if you're not trusting them or not respecting them, then this can lead to issues in supporting our titled leaders. Because of this distrust in authority, naturally, we feel the need, number three, to check our leaders. And so this leads to a lot of leaders having to actually continuously gain the trust and respect of the people. In America, just because you have a title, how should I say this? Perhaps this says more about me. But those who have a title, right? Minister, pre-pastor, pastor, obviously you have done and set an incredible condition to receive this title from the heavens. This I know, and many people do know this. But naturally, I'm also really curious, and I do wonder, I wonder what they did to earn this title. And I hope that doesn't come off as like accusatory or anything like that. That's not what I intended. But genuinely, I do have this sense of like curiosity when I see people and the titles that they have. I think a lot of other people and members are also curious in this sense. Because personally, it's only once I see someone prove to me, in a sense, I don't want to use that word prove, but when I can see that through their actions, through their accomplishments, through prayer, whatever it may be, when I can actually see those things, do I come to realize and know, this is why God gave them the title. And I've noticed within myself, only when I have that realization, that aha moment, do I actually start trusting the leader. Which, granted, is 100% my own fault, right? I should already trust in the Holy Trinity, that they've placed these leaders, that they've placed these rocks in the most perfect, opportune place, rather than me sitting around wondering whether or when the rocks will fall, right? So thinking about these things and kind of listing them out into 3 different reasons as to why we might see young people not really wanting to step into this leadership role. And if we want to create a future where more people wish to be leaders for Providence, I think that I need to start trusting, respecting, and supporting the leaders that we have even more now. Because sometimes I do think I can only imagine how difficult it must be to be a leader, right? How hard it must be. Sometimes leaders get a bad rep, it's not an easy job. And I don't want to say that it's this way because of Providence and the systems we have in place. That's not why, right? We have the Word is perfect, the Word is good. This history is God's history. But I think one of the reasons may be because each individual that comes to Providence, that comes into this history and does our best to work together, I'm just using America as an example, each person comes in with a perceived notion. And a lot of the times are just kind of unaware that we have and contain these worldly perceptions, right? With the ones I used regarding America, not trusting leaders, not respecting leaders, checking leaders. Those things, sometimes we don't even know that we're doing them. But if we were to truly create a system of support, fostering learning, growth, and allowing mistakes to happen in certain situations, not all situations, I think people would be more willing and open to becoming leaders, right? And I do think, at least in American Providence, I know that there is a leadership program that is taking place and happening, which I do think is setting the foundation and creating the stage so that people can begin to foster learning, growth, coming to know what members may need, and creating solutions for that, which, when you create solutions for problems, will naturally create and foster respect and trust from your members, right? And I think that's so important, because Sunsum said it too. He said during the Sunday message with the responsive reading of Proverbs, right? Take action perfectly. Don't cross the boundary into other people's territory, but work well. So in the same way, myself shouldn't be distrusting of leaders, but I should look to leaders and really see, this is what God has in place for them. And this is what they're doing for God's history. For myself, like I mentioned prior, I would never imagine becoming a titled leader for pretty much all the reasons that I listed above. Why would I want to put myself through that? But at the very end of the day, it's not really about what I want. But I realized. Someone says that all the time too, right? Our hearts change every second, every minute. Perhaps the things that you want may turn into things that you don't want. The things that you didn't want could turn into the things that you do want. And sometimes you want everything. Other times you have no idea, not a clue what you want. And because the human mind really is so fickle. But God's ways and His thoughts are truly greater than our own. And I do absolutely believe that He's called each and every single one of us to this history. He's chosen us. Some to do really big work, some to do small work. All of us, though, are precious before the eyes of the Lord. So, I am going to be applying for this title position. I'm hesitant in doing so because a couple of reasons. I'm stubborn, but one of the main reasons, though, is because I do see still a lot of flaws within myself. I am young, so I'm still growing, but I am grateful because over the past couple months, I have realized the things that I need to fix. This is kind of connected, and also a segue into my second topic for today, my conversations with the newcomer, which I had on Sunday. But I was talking to this newcomer over the phone, and I was telling her how, I'm going to be taking time off from working full-time after working for about 3 years, and I'm going to simply live running for the church, and I'm not going to work. I'm going to trust everything to God, and that over this past summer, I was able to experience so many incredible things, like traveling, but also, through those instances, was forced to confront my own flaws and my own faults, which was really hard. But I realized that in working and focusing on these shortcomings, I felt and I feel that I'm able to be closer to God. I'm able to give Him glory, that through taking these faults of mine and turning them into something beautiful, something uniquely me, something for God, it's as if through these faults of mine, I'm almost better for it, in a sense, stronger. Because only through hardship, only through toil can you really value, can you really gain things, right? No pain, no gain. Which the newcomer, after I told her this, she immediately went, oh my God, that's so crazy. The scripture for the day from her Bible app was actually 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 10, which I'll read. It's a really short scripture. It says, "That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." Which, I was so completely blown away. I told the newcomer, I was like, oh my gosh, God's here. He's with us. And she was like, yeah, He is. This is so amazing. Yeah. And I think this scripture applies to so many of us, myself personally, but also I think it applies to leadership as well. Some people in the comments last week were asking, how was it that we had so many fish, so many people just jumping into our boats, coming up to the booth that we had on campus? And I wanted to come up with a good answer. But personally, I really do think it starts with having a good leader who, one, is consistent, determined, and listens. Because this leader, our ministry rep here in Houston, because she listened to our concerns, to our worries, our disagreements that we may have had with her or others, to our weaknesses, in a sense, then people were more willing to listen to her, take action on the things that she asked us to do. And so we actually found strength through those weaknesses, quote unquote, to be able to work together as a unit. And I think another thing that was really important too is that through this, each person was able to masterfully work in their own area of expertise. And so we were able to grab the fish in a better way like that. We had people who were confident in going out and talking to people on the streets. We had people who were confident in praying for newcomers and praying for lives. We had people who were confident standing at the booth and giving candy to people that were coming up to us. So things like that. We had people in the place where they felt the most comfortable, where their talents really shined. And so naturally, when you're confident, you're shining the light of God, people are going to be attracted to that, like moths to a flame. And so again, I truly do believe, and I hope that through my conversation with the leadership, that we can realize that truly it is only according to God's will. And that the most important thing is not what others think about us, right? Because that's irrelevant. But that we really need to support each other. And that through the support of one another, we can really focus on finding what our hidden treasures, our talents are. The things that we gain from our family, the things that we gain from our hard work, our own personal efforts, and especially the things that we gain from God. And only when that happens can everyone then be placed into their correct position and be used perfectly according to God's will. Only then can we really gain that respect, that trust, that support for one another, leader or not. So I hope that we can all really focus on the word for this week, really making ourselves perfectly and taking action on the theme for this year of 2025, which is the word and evangelism. So with that, I'll wrap up today's segment for 2G Talks. I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to see and read comments about what you think about leadership, either in your own country or if you have your own personal opinions on how leadership is in America. I would love to hear it. But of course, please feel free to leave a comment, whatever it may be, or shoot Eddie and I an email at 2gtalks@gmail.com. Don't forget to hit that like button, and I hope that you'll have a great rest of your Tuesday together with the Lord. I'll see you all next week.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone.